He's our good shepherd, for he looks after all the broken and bruised, all the lost and confused. And he calls us by name, and he washes away all our sins, so we bow and surrender to our good shepherd. We are all lost sometimes, and we've all failed to find joy that is found in Yeshua. But he will come after to where you wander. He will call you back to him and give you peace. Oh, he'll give you peace, for he's our good shepherd, for he looks after all the broken and bruised, all the lost and confused. And he calls us by name, and he washes away all our sins, so we bow and surrender to our good shepherd. Oh, he's our good shepherd. Oh, we may lose a few of those we love and knew, and our hearts may be broken, but he is still working. And this life is a journey, and in the midst of our hurting, he is giving us his love and his mercy. Oh, he's giving us mercy, for he's our good shepherd, for he looks after all the broken and bruised, all the lost and confused. And he calls us by name, and he washes away all our sins, so we bow and surrender to our good shepherd. Oh, he's our good shepherd. Oh, he keeps to his sheep, and he tends to the weak. He leaves the 99 to seek the one who's hard to find. And he calls us his chosen, and he blesses the broken by giving us his grace. Now we follow his ways. He keeps to his sheep, and he tends to the weak. Oh, he leaves the 99 to seek the one who's hard to find. And he calls us his chosen, and he blesses the broken by giving us his grace. Now we follow his way. Oh, he's our good shepherd, for he looks after all the broken and bruised, all the lost and confused. And he calls us by name, and he washes away all our sins, so we bow and surrender to our good shepherd. He's our good shepherd. Oh, washes away all our sins, so we bow and surrender to our good shepherd.
And Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and welcome to the Virtual House Church. Sorry we got off a couple minutes late here. We are all celebrating Sukkot, so everybody's trying to find a good internet connection and getting organized and stuff like that in the midst of Sukkot. If you're joining us here for the first time on the Virtual House Church, you could go to virtualhousechurch.com is our primary website, virtualhousechurch.com. Some introductory stuff there on the front page for you to check out. There's a fellowship finder, so if you're looking to connect with somebody in your area that may be in line with your views here on the keeping the Torah and all that sort of thing, this is a map put out by 119 Ministries. Lots of people all over the world to potentially connect with there. Some cool videos by Zach Bauer from New to Torah also on that page. And in the top menu, you see who we are. That's just about Sheila and I, what we believe, our statement of faith. Coming Out of Babylon is a resource for people who are really brand new and have a lot of questions. How do we do this? How do we do that? What about the feasts and all that sort of thing? That's a great resource for you there. Virtual House Church Store. You can click on the calendar here, and that should open up a PDF for you. It's a free calendar put out by Kevin and Amanda Roberts. It has a Hebrew calendar superimposed on top of our Gregorian calendar. If you'd like a printed copy, you could click on the domestic if you live in the United States, or international if you live elsewhere, to get a printed copy. Also, Juan Carlos, same thing. Click on that. It gives you a free PDF for you to check out of the calendar that he's keeping. It's slightly different than the one by Kevin and Amanda. And if you scroll down, we're getting ready to start over. So it's a good time to get your Torah study workbooks. I will tell you that you'll get them quicker through Amazon and cheaper through us. So if you want to get them right away, go ahead and order there through Amazon. If you'd like to wait and get all 5, I do have a few left in inventory and more on the way, but it seems like it takes a lot longer these days than it used to for me to get my inventory in. But anyway, you can get those before we start Genesis up next week. And the PDF version right here, you get those instant download, and you can print off the weekly studies for your home fellowship group or your whoever you're meeting with, your family, whatever. And of course, the Ephraim Awakening DVD-ROM, which contains all the resources that you see there. So then down below that, we have What Do We Do About Paul and Galatians. A couple of links there. The common frequently asked questions, that sort of thing is dealt with in those links. And then below that are the weekly studies. And this week we're doing week number 54, the last Torah portion for this year's cycle. You see the scriptures on the right-hand side there. Hopefully you at least took the time to read those scriptures. We'd like you to do that before you join us. If you can, read through the scriptures and or listen to the broadcast from 2013 or watch the broadcast after that we did. This is a ministry called Parsha in 60 Seconds, and Parsha is the Hebrew word for study. And basically what they do is they distill the Torah portion down to 60 seconds. So we can go ahead and listen and watch that to get us started here.
Welcome to Parsha in 60 Seconds. Today's portion is from Deuteronomy 33:1 through 34:12. It is called Vezot HaBracha, which means, and this is the blessing. Before Moses died, he bade the Israelites farewell with a long, detailed blessing. Moses prayed that the tribe of Reuben survive, though its numbers were few, that Judah would be restored and helped against its foes, that the Levites would have substance, favor their undertakings, and smite their enemies. Benjamin would continue to rest securely beside God, between God's shoulders. Joseph to have a good harvest. Zebulun to rejoice in its journeys, and Issachar in its tents. Gad like a lion who executes God's judgment for Israel. Dan like a lion's whelp that leaps from Bashan. Naphtali to take possession of the west and south. Asher to be the favorite among the tribes, dip its feet in oil, and have door bolts of iron and copper and security all its days. Moses then praised God for being a mighty protector like no other. At 120 years old, Moses climbed a mountain, saw the land, and died. The Israelites mourned for 30 days, and Joshua, filled with God's Spirit, became their leader. Never again did a prophet like Moses arise, who spoke face to face with God. And that is Vezot HaBracha in 60 seconds.
All right. That's awesome. And of course, there's other notes and stuff you can check out. I always recommend these commentaries by Ardell from Your Living Waters. Definitely worth checking out. You can click on those PDFs and download them. Definitely worth reading. And some other notes from previous years here on the show page. And of course, we end as usual with the Psalm 91, the prayer of protection for end times right there. So let's see, one other thing to cover here, and that is, if you haven't already, you need to vote today. Vote today, not for presidents or any persons in Congress, but for the Virtual House Church logo that we are trying to decide on here. I've got all the submissions that people had gotten to us by Wednesday. Wednesday was the deadline. And so you can look at all of the ones that people have submitted here, and I've already voted here. So if you've already voted, you probably have a screen like this. If you want to see the results, you can click on that, and after you vote, it'll show you the ones that are have already been voted on and which ones are winning. So what we're going to do before Jake has to leave early today, I'm going to go through this probably in the next half hour or so. So be sure to start voting now if you can. And I'll check this again and then try to really quickly put together a top 5 page. And then Juan Carlos, Jake, and I will decide from the top 5 what the winner is. So right now it looks like logo design number 25 is in the lead. This one right here. And by the way, you can click on the picture if you want to enlarge it. If it's too hard for you to see, you can just click on it and then hit the back button in your browser to get back to the page there. So I will put the link to this page in the chat room here on YouTube. And it's robschannel.com/VHC-logo. That is the URL. And I just put the link in the chat room. So be sure to vote in the next 20 minutes or so we can kind of wrap this up and get ourselves a new logo. All right. Now, with all that said, let's go to my co-hosts here, Juan Carlos and Jake Grant, all of which are celebrating Sukkot. Hey, guys.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Hey, so Juan Carlos, you're on day 4, I think, on your calendar of.
Yes. Today I'm in the day 4. I started Sukkot on Wednesday this week. So have been enjoying Sukkot so far. It's the best time of season of the year, you know?
Yeah. Are you doing it with any fellowship, or are you just doing it at your house, or what are you doing?
Actually, I was invited outside of the city to a place that I built my own sukkah. First time in the year, so many years waiting to build a proper sukkah. So I did it this year. So yeah, now I'm in my apartment just to join the Virtual House Church, but tomorrow I'm going back to the place to keep celebrating Sukkot with the family.
Very good. Yeah, we are just doing it here in our backyard. Right now. So Jake, where are you doing it? You're doing it with Steve Mutria's group, right?
Yeah, I'm down here in southern Missouri, here in the Ozark foothills. This is the biggest Sukkot I've ever been to. It's amazing.
Nice.
There's like probably 100 plus people here, big families. There's more kids and families here than I've ever seen at Sukkot. So we're super excited to be here. Right now I'm connected to like a camp Wi-Fi outside of one of the offices, but yeah, we're really having a blast. We're on the first day for our calendar here, and We're just having a blast. I had my in-laws come up from Kentucky and my parents both, so we have a whole bunch of family here, and it's just a blast.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Is it at a campsite, or somebody's property, or where is it?
Yeah, it's a private campground at the back of a big state park here in the Roaring Rapids State Park or something like that. Yeah, it's a blast. They're actually doing tour portions right now in the big hall, and so I snuck out so I could jump on with you guys for a little while. But it's just awesome, guys. They're doing a giant open forum tour portion right now in the big hall, and there's probably 200 people in there. And Steve's reading through the tour portion and then saying, "All right, questions, comments, concerns," and they're all people shouting out different theories and thoughts and adding to the teach. It's amazing. It's so beautiful to see.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Oh man, that sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah, I kind of missed that. It's been a while since I've done one with a whole group before. It's just sometimes it's really difficult for us to manage all that, but Sukkot's generally always a good time. It's a lot of fun. And well, we're still enjoying ourselves even in the backyard, but it's not quite the same as being with a large group of people. And what I really love about Sukkot are the campfire discussions that tend to happen after dark when we go way into the night debating heavy things. That's something I really enjoy. Although the last one, I have to say, the last one that I did with a large group of people was not quite as fun as previous ones, because for some reason that particular year was the year that a lot of people started questioning Paul and worse, Yeshua. And at that time, there were a lot of people that were trying to say that Yeshua wasn't really the Messiah and that he was an idol and we shouldn't have anything to do with him. And I was like, what is happening here? And I was quite frustrated at that one. That was not so much fun. I enjoy a good discussion and love a healthy debate, but that was over the top for me at that time. So hopefully you guys won't run into that.
Yeah, they made sure before everyone came here, they went out and made sure everybody was on the same page with our Messiah is the one and only Yeshua, and that we hadn't denied him. And so that was kind of the only prerequisite, no matter where you stand on round earth, flat earth, how to pronounce the name, whatever, all different types of people can come. Just make sure you haven't denied our Messiah. And that was the most important thing. And it's a great time to come together. And that's at least a good baseline for people to come and we can discuss all these other topics, but that's the most important one to have down for sure.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I mean, that's what I call the core essentials. So it's like you got to have that down. You got to get that right. All the other stuff, sure. Let's debate. Let's have fun. Let's have some civilized discussion about it. No problem. But glad that they did that, because, man, it can get really rough if people aren't, at least united in that.
Yeah, I wanted to share with you guys last week. The reason I missed was because we had a big national coordinated baptism, and I wanted to tell everybody how well it went.
Yeah.
We had 17 different ministries all over North America, all baptized people at the same day on the same time frame, and hundreds of people all over the United States got baptized in the name of our Messiah, and it was just awesome. Here in Missouri, we had probably 200 people show up, and it was an awesome experience. It was all for us. We were all doing it before the Day of Atonement. Most of us were doing it as whether it was rededicating themselves or people that had been baptized in the mainstream church system and they wanted to do it with the name Yeshua or Yahushua, and people that had never been baptized were all given this opportunity. And man, I think I'm gonna see if we can start doing it every year around that time frame, because there was an amazing turnout. We had hundreds of people all over North America come out and get baptized, and it was an awesome show of like cooperation between different ministries and stuff. We have different opinions and different areas of study that we all focus on, but we can all come together on this core main important thing that Yeshua told us to repent and be baptized, and and that's the main aspect of the gospel. That's the first little step of obedience, is to just do that almost little silly act, with that Assyrian prince came down, and he wanted to get healed. The prophet told him, yeah, go and mikvah in the Jordan 7 times. And he was like, that's silly. And his servants told him, if the prophet had told you to go and do some crazy feat, wouldn't you go and do it? And you know what? He was like, yeah, you're right. And he goes and he does and these are all foreshadows of the amazing, picture of baptism that we have in the New Testament, with, the old man being laid to rest, and that being born again into new life, that old youth flowing down the river of living water. And a lot of people all over got to experience that for the first time, or rededicate. And I just want to tell you guys how that went. It just was awesome. And we're going to be doing it more. I think there's a lot more people out there that would love to, step out in faith and walk that out, that haven't had the opportunity. And so I'm just all excited about it, because it's a great time to do that around the feast. We know historically, people would mikvah before the feasts as a preparation, as a outward sign of repentance. And especially coming up into the Day of Atonement, that's definitely a time of introspection and reflection and repenting of all the stuff. And so, it's a great way to symbolize that sign of repentance. And it's also a very important thing for, being baptized into the name of our Messiah. And so anyways, I wanted to share that with you guys.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's wonderful. I saw some of the pictures and stuff you were posting that looked like quite the event. Very cool.
Yeah, maybe next time, Jake, and I think I mentioned this other day, we can try to organize something worldwide. I will be happy to join the doing something similar from here.
That would be amazing. And, just this first time, this is the first shot. We only promoted it for maybe like 2 weeks or so. But man, if we could get people all over the world all on the same page, can you imagine how powerful that would be? It would make waves, literally and metaphorically, and just all over the world, people get baptized. And I think that would be a great thing to organize in the future. And I'd love to do that.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay. All right. Well, since Jake, you got to go early, we'll start with you. What were your thoughts on this final portion from the Torah in Deuteronomy?
I thought it was such a fascinating parallel with the blessings of Jacob. When Jacob blessed the sons of Israel, he had various blessings. And I was wondering if you guys had looked into that. I didn't have a chance to do a comparison yet with the actual blessings in Genesis. But isn't it so fascinating that in the same way, before Jacob died, he blessed the 12 sons, and Moses, before he died, gave them, also blessings. And I just found that really fascinating. I think it's important that we recognize that Moses, the humblest man who lived, right, didn't make it into the promised land. And I know we talked a little bit about this in previous Torah portions, but I think it is a very important thing, and this is tied to, we don't want to deny our Messiah, because no matter how much Torah you have, unless you receive salvation given to us from the act of dying and raising again and putting faith on the name of the Messiah, you won't get into the promised land. And that's how we have this amazing parallel in the Torah with Moses. He could get us up to the looking into it, but he didn't get us into the land. It was Yahushua, it was Joshua that eventually delivered us, delivered the children of Israel into the Holy Land. And in the same way, it's important that we recognize that our Messiah is how we make it all the way in, and because he's the one that has made it possible for imperfect men to be reconciled to a perfect Creator. And so I was just really fascinated with the various blessings of the children of Israel. One that right off the bat that stood out to me, I believe it was it's I'm looking here, just making sure it's the right one. Is I think it was Gad or Reuben who says he will not. Let me find it real quick here. Reuben will live and not die, but his men will be few. And it's just interesting because we know that, you know, some of the blessings that came from Jacob, there seems to be some parallels here, and I want to do a fuller study to do a comparison of the two. But we know that sin passes down generationally, you know, to the third and fourth generation is what the scripture talks about. And I can't help but to wonder if, you know, some of these blessings that Moses is pronouncing over the children of Israel is kind of a continuation of the sins of the patriarchs. You know, that you know, we have of course Levi was very very zealous, and we have that story of Levi and his brother going into to kill the men who had raped Dinah in Shechem, and you know, whenever you look at some of the other extra biblical writings, we find that Levi was very zealous for like the priesthood and kind of the more priestly aspects of the, you know, his heritage, and so I think there's a lot of interesting parallels here, and I would love to see if anybody who's watching this, if maybe they compared, you know, the various blessings of the sons of Jacob, you know, through, you know, Genesis and also here in Deuteronomy, and maybe there's more we can learn. That, you know, I think there's interesting characteristics that are placed on each of these children of Israel, and you know, whenever you know, talk about Ephraim and Manasseh, an interesting thing that I've been learning recently is how Jacob, whenever he prophesied over Ephraim, he said he will become a multitude of nations. He said that Manasseh will become a great nation, but he said that Ephraim will become a multitude of nations. And in a way, in his blessing that he was placing over Ephraim, one of the sons of Joseph, he was almost telling him, guess what? Your descendants at some point are not going to be part of the nation of Israel. They're going to go off into the nations. And so in his own way, he was prophesying over them about the northern house and the dispersion that would eventually happen because of their idolatry, because that only became possible whenever they sinned, and then they were eventually cast out and scattered into the nations. And you know, Ephraim lost their identity as a tribe of Israel and became a multitude of nations. And so you know, there's just some really important things here with these blessings, and I think you know, some of the interesting things that I've heard, like in some of my interviews with Dr. Stephen Pidgeon in the past, he's associated with I believe it was Gad or Simeon, with this warrior class of the tribes of Israel that would basically be scattered in the tribes, and they were always the gusto, get going, you know, fighter types that were always ready for battle. And he eventually traced their lineage to possible ancestors of the Spartans, which is it's a plausible thing based on some of that research, but you know, just some really interesting things about where these tribes ended up and who they were throughout history, because you know, if these blessings are placed over them by Moses and by Jacob, then maybe we can trace some of these qualities, some of these traits throughout history, and we're able to maybe identify some of their likely descendants. And of course, we know that the tribes have thoroughly mixed in with the nations, and many have, you know, intermingled and lost their identity. But it's just very cool. I kind of had this idea, like making a bunch of T-shirts for each tribe, and each color T-shirt will be the color of like one of the stones, because we have on the breastplate of the high priest. We have the breastplate of the high priest with the various colors, and like I had some cool ideas about that, but anyway, so those were the main things that stood out to me, that I just wanted to do further study in the future. But also just the fact that, can you imagine how Moses would have felt going through all of this trouble over the years, and all he gets to do is look out over the promised land, and he didn't get to go in. It can, like, man, that guy went through so many heartaches and bad experiences, and so he's like, all right, getting to look out over the Holy Land. So, maybe he gets his experience to get into the Holy Land whenever the resurrection happens, and so maybe that's his consolation prize, I guess. But the one thing that's fascinated me is how it talks about at the end of the Torah portion how nobody knows where Moses died and was buried. And I find it interesting because I had always thought that he had died on a mountain and was buried on some mountain, but in a closer inspection, it says that he was buried in a valley in the land of Moab, opposite to Bet Peor, but no man knows of his grave today. And of course, we have that interesting account of Satan contending over the body of Moses. Forgive me, I'm spacing on the reference.
It's in Jude.
But we have that interesting. Sorry, what was that?
In Jude, in the book of Jude.
Yeah, and of course, that's just a peculiar, thing in itself. Like, what in the world? What is that all about? So I was wondering if maybe you guys had some thoughts of why do you think that it was important that no man know where Moses was buried, and also why do you guys believe in Jude it talks about Satan contending over his body? Like, what's all that about? It's just some interesting stuff. But it finishes off this Torah portion, the very end of the Torah, and it says, and in Israel there is not risen a prophet since like Moses, whom Yahuwah knew face to face, and all the signs and his wonders which Yahuwah sent to him to do in the land of Egypt to Pharaoh, to all his servants, to all his land, and all that mighty hand, and all that great awe which Moses showed in the sight of all Israel. And that's why it's so important that we know the prophet likened unto Moshe, right? The Messiah, Yahushua. Because we know that we've talked about it many times during these virtual house church discussions about the greater Exodus and the regathering, and it talks about in the prophets where no more will they say, "Thus the Lord lives, who brought the children of Israel out of Egypt," but the Lord lives, who brought the children of Israel from the four corners of the earth and from all the islands of the sea and drew them back in. And that's something that is yet to happen, because I don't know about you guys, but it's still pretty miraculous, the things that have been recorded in these Torah, in the books of the Torah and the Exodus accounts and the miracles. But man, oh man, am I looking forward to when no more are we going to say, we follow the Lord that brought up the children of Israel out of Egypt. Instead, we're going to be saying, we follow the Lord that brought up all the tribes of Israel from the four corners where he scattered them and brings them back in. And who is it that the staff is joined together of Ephraim and Judah? That's under the hand of the Messiah, our Savior. And that's why this stuff's so important to study through the Torah portions. And man, it's just been a blast to go through these Torah portions with you guys. And I love discussing this stuff. And there's always going to be more to learn next year. So,
yep. Yeah, for sure. I mean, we are doing this, over 10 years now, and we're still getting stuff out of it. Same thing as you, Jake. I always thought it was in the mountains, but it says very clearly it was in the valley that Moses' body was buried. I'm like, how did I miss that? I mean, we discussed it in, I think it was the 2016 broadcast, where it was kind of a revelation to us as well. We're like, but yeah, I'm with you, man. I don't know what to make of that passage in Jude, and it's been a bit of a quest for me to try to find what text was it that the author of Jude, that presumably Jude himself, was referring to. Like, where did he get this information, and what was that all about? I mean, the only thing I can speculate on that would be that they would probably want to worship it. Same thing with the the snake on the pole thing. They started worshiping that thing too. So, maybe that's a reason. I don't know. I did think it's kind of cool though that Moses kind of got to go into the land with Yeshua in the Mount of Transfiguration. Now, this is really on the border for them. This is this southern Lebanon, northern Israel. Actually, I don't know. Maybe that is still considered part of the, right now the current borders are not the biblical borders of Israel, the promised land. So I'd have to go back and look at it and see if Mount Hermon is within the promised borders or if it's outside of it. At any rate, Mount Hermon, I believe, is the Mount of Transfiguration, because it's right there at Caesarea Philippi where Yeshua stopped his disciples and said, "Hey, who do men say that I am?" And it says, right after that, he took a few of his disciples up to the top of a high mountain. Well, it's by far the highest mountain in the region, and they're already there. So many scholars believe, as I do, that Mount Hermon was the Mount of Transfiguration. In fact, even to this day, right now there's a UN radar outpost on Mount Hermon right across from a cross that is there to establish the believed site of the Transfiguration. So I've always found that pretty cool that Moses at least got that far, and to go there and be there with Yeshua, who was the prophet like unto Moses. So I've always been fascinated by that. Juan Carlos, what are your thoughts? And after Juan speaks, Jake, if you need to go, we can go ahead and do the vote real quick. So everybody, while Juan Carlos is talking, please go to robschannel.com/VHC-logo. If you haven't already, I'll put the link again in the chat room, and you guys can give your final vote. And what's going to happen here is you guys are voting for what will amount to the top 5. And so you guys are the votes, the people, and you might think of us as like the electoral college if you want to, because then we're going to, regardless of what you think is the number 1 of the top 5, we're going to go in there, look at the top 5, and then we will decide what we think. And I guess we'll let Juan, Carlos, and Jake go first, and then I'll be the tiebreaker that either confirms or denies what you guys come up with. All right. So with that said, Juan Carlos, what are your thoughts on this week's Torah portion?
Well, I think we shared with Jake many similar topics regarding what's interesting in this portion, Rob. And myself, I have not done the clear, deep study on the blessing here, and I think I have my notes here in the scripture that is something really interesting to go and study more deeper details because of the different parallels between the blessing given by Jacob and also the blessing to the whole Israel, and to see what's the different blessing to the different tribes. You know what caught my attention, and this will deserve, as I said, a deeper study, that the only 2 tribes that got a bigger blessing or more extended blessing was the tribe of Levi and the tribe of Joseph. Yeah. So this is really interesting, considering the importance of the tribe of Levi. And somehow in the way that I felt this, it was somehow related to everything that Moshe and Aaron went through during their time in the wilderness. The rebellion of Korah and so on. So most probably somehow was also a reinforcement of the position of the Kohanim by being the one leading the people on the way of Yahuwah. But, as Jake said, I think this deserve a more deeper study just to understand what are the parallels and how this applies to all of us. Today, even there are few items here in the first 3 verses that I'm quite sure that this is related to the end times. When we read in the verse 2 that the Yahuwah he shone forth from Mount Paran and came with 10,000 of set apart ones. It resonated within me to something similar that we read in the book of Yehuda, the book of Jude, when he's rephrasing what is written in the book of Enoch, that the Yahuwah will come with thousands of myriads of the set apart ones. So there's some kind of a parallel there that it will be interesting to study. So, but you know what specifically got my attention, is what I wanted to share today. Is in the way that is the chapter 33 is finishing, and you know, it's resonated really much on me, because somehow it's a message for all of us in these last days. And I want to read it to you guys. This is in the verse 26 to 29 of the chapter 33. And it says the following: O Yeshurun, there is no one like Elohim, riding in the heavens to help you, and on the clouds in his excellency. The Elohim of all is a refuge, and beneath are everlasting arms. And he drives out the enemy from before you and says, destroy. Thus Israel dwells in safety, the fountain of Jacob alone, in a land of grain and new wine. His heavens also drop down dew. Blessed are you, Israel, who is like you, a people saved by Yahweh, the shield of your help, and he who is the sword of your excellency, and your enemies are subdued for you, and you tread down their high places. When I was reading this, by studying this portion, you know, as I said, it resonated that much within me, because we are living so complicated and difficult times lately. And this year that we have been discussing about this previously has been, I think, for all of us around the world, very difficult. And we see how the darkness is increasing and increasing every day. And we, the ones that we want to keep on the way of Yahuwah, keeping the narrow path, is getting every day more difficult. It's a hard-pressed walk and way. And, you know, these hard pressures are increasing and increasing every day. And we know, Jacob was referring to just a few minutes ago about the second Exodus. We know that in the last days, this will continue increasing, these difficulties and so on. But we see here in this passage that is part of the blessing that Moshe delivered to the people of Yahuwah, this amazing promise that is for all of us, and is something, a reminder that is Yahuwah the one saving his people. Is the Yahuwah the one fighting the battles for us. And this is part of the blessing, the amazing blessing for all of Israel. And we are part of Israel. You know, we are celebrating Sukkot now. And the meaning of Sukkot is so amazing. I was sharing in a video in my channel the other day that, you know, the significance and the profound meaning of Sukkot is such a blessing that is basically is the establishment of the kingdom of Yahuwah, is the future booth of Elohim, as is written in Revelation, coming down to earth with the New Jerusalem, and Yahuwah himself living among his people, among his creation, once again in the same way that was done at the creation in the Gan Eden. So we see now during this time of feast that this amazing blessing of protection, and a reminder for all of us that no matter that we are going through difficulties, no matter that we will go even through very hard times in the near future, is Yahuwah the one protecting us? Is Yahuwah the one that is acting as the strong tower, the refuge for all of us? It's just a matter for all of us to believe in these promises. It's a matter just for all of us to take refuge in Yahuwah himself in order to be safe. And you know, the additional amazing thing in this, that it says that people saved by Yahuwah. And we know what's the real name of our Mashiach. Is Yahuwah safe, Yahushua. So even in this small passage, we see this amazing promise that Yahuwah will save his people through Mashiach. So you know, this is something that resonated to me really much, and I wanted to share with you guys, because it's something for us in these days. It's through Yahushua, just taking hold on his hand. And you know, even it was funny that you mentioned about your experience in the last Sukkot, how many people was rejecting Yahushua as the Messiah. You know, because I wanted to share this topic to you. So you know, everything is connected some time to time. It's Yahuwah just leading our words. So it's a reminder, we need to hold the hands of Yahushua. because through him, Yahuwah will save us during this period of time. It's part of the blessing of Moshe. And you know, there is an interesting parallel as well regarding the same. It is written by the words of Paul Shaul that in the last days we will hear about peace and safety, but sudden destruction will come over the nations. So a fake peace and safety is coming to the earth, but we know that through Yahuwah we will have a real safety, a real refuge, a real peace. And there are few passages that you know is really interesting. I want to share with you. It's in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 33, verse 16, just to reinforce this idea.
What is it? Hang on a second. Jeremiah what?
Jeremiah 33.
33. Okay. All right.
Verse 16.
Okay.
And this is talking about the end times. And let's read it from the verse 15 and 16. It says, "In those days and at that time, I cause a branch of righteousness to spring forth for David, and he shall do right ruling and righteousness in the earth. And on those days, Yehuda shall be saved, and Jerusalem dwell in safety. And this is that which shall be proclaimed to her, Yahuwah Tzidkenu, Yahuwah our righteousness." So we see this also, this parallelism, that we will see a fake peace and safety. But you know, just by reading this amazing blessing at the end of the blessing of Moshe, that the real safety and the real peace, we will have it directly by the hand of Yahushua, when the kingdom of Yahuwah is going to be established. And this is the amazing connection as well of what are the feasts that we are celebrating now. It's Sukkot. It's a time of rejoicing. It's a time of peace. It's a time of remember that this is the promise of Yahuwah for all of his people. It's a time of peace, a time of rejoicing, a time of coming back to the original design of his creation. So you know, that's the most important part that it caught my attention. And you know, the second thing that I think Rob or you mentioned this is about the faithfulness of Moses. You know, he wasn't able, and I was sharing with you previous weeks ago, that about what I think is going to happen to Moses. He wasn't able to go and pass over to the promised land. But you know, he died on the mountain. He was buried, as you properly said, and this is also amazing, in the valley. And it's my belief that when Moses is going to be resurrected, it's going to be like closing and opening of eyes. It's just going to sleep and waking up at the following day. So for Moses, it's going to be just these 2,000 or 3,000 years or so. It didn't exist. It's just the next day. So he's going to be able to pass to the promised land by the hand of Yahushua, no Yahushua ben Nun, by the hand of Yahushua HaMashiach. So, but even in that situation, that Moses was not able to pass to the promised land in that time, you know, he endured till the end. Because you know, our emotions sometimes plays against us, especially when we are going through the difficult times. And you know, Moses could decide by then, okay, I will not continue leading these people. If I'm not going to pass over the promised land, why I will continue doing so? But you know, he was faithful till the end, even when he knew that he was not going to pass to the land. He took his commitment to Yahuwah until the end, and he was walking and running the race till the end. You know, and there are so many parallels on this faithfulness of Moshe that we see in Yahushua himself. And this is an example for all of us. You know, we see a lot of the fruits of the Ruach, the fruits of the Spirit, in the character of Moses. And in the same thing we see in the character of our Mashiach. And this is, I think, the main takeaway of this passage from my point of view, because it's the last one from the book of the Devarim. You know, we have been going through the entire the portion of the Devarim, how Israel were walking in the wilderness, all the experiences they went through, the difficulties that Moshe went through with these stiff-necked people. But even so, he stood, and he was faithful to Yahuwah until the end, showing this self-control internally, with the exception of what happened in the water of Mara. Even being a really peaceful guy, in the same way that Mashiach was. So all the fruit of the spirits we see in Moshe. And this is an invitation for all of us, that even that we go through difficulties in our lives, in our day-to-day, that we need to see this example in Moses, that we need to see this example in the servants of Yahuwah through the scriptures. We need to see the example and the character of Yahushua HaMashiach, and we need to imitate them, because this is what Yahuwah is expecting from his children, from his people, from his sons. So you know, and this is also connected to what I said before. We will go through difficulties. We are going already through difficulties, but we need to remind ourselves those examples, that even that we are going through difficult times, we need to hold fast to the hand of Yahushua. We need to hold fast on the purpose of what Yahuwah called us to his way, and to endure until the end. This is you know, one of the main takeaways from my point of view, and the examples of Moses to all of us. So I don't know, guys, if you want to comment on these points.
Yeah, very good. Jake, any
Awesome.
comments on what Juan Carlos had to say?
Yeah, just one. I wanted to throw out one quick parallel between Moses and Yahushua that I never really understood before, but it just recently kind of dawned on me with this whole baptism thing, and you know, it'd been kind of on my mind and stuff. But you know, the process by which Moshe was named was the daughter of Pharaoh. Okay, named him Moshe, which means being drawn from water. Okay. And so, in the same way, we have Yahushua, whenever he went and he got baptized by John the Baptist, says, "This is so that all righteousness may be fulfilled." Yahushua also was drawn from the water, and he heard from heaven that voice that says, "This is my my son with whom I am well pleased." Right? Well, the amazing parallel is that if we are to follow after our Messiah's example, one, it's another good reason to get baptized, but also it's a parallel with the adoptive process of becoming fellow heirs into another type of royal family, just as Moses was drawn from the water and adopted into the royal family, you know, with the daughter of Pharaoh. In the same way, when we go through that baptism, you know, process in Yahushua's name, we also are offered that opportunity to be fellow heirs with the kingdom of heaven. So it's another parallel there with the name of Moshe, you know, being drawn from waters, that we see that Yahushua is walking out in the gospel account. You know, there's got to be a significance that he's like, you know, I got to do this so that all righteousness will be fulfilled. And so whenever we recognize that he is our example, and if we say we know him, we should walk also as he walked, then it's a great, you know, a great analogy there of, you know, in the same way that Moses was drawn from waters and adopted into that royal family, we are offered that opportunity to become fellow heirs with Christ through following him in baptism. And so that's something I stumbled across, another parallel there with the name of Moshe and why he was named that, and also in the Messiah kind of having us follow in that example of baptism. So and also this time of Sukkot, I think Juan was mentioning Sukkot a little bit. I find it very interesting that it is this time of Sukkot that we're trying to keep these biblical feasts, doing Bible things in Bible ways, right? And the Feast of Sukkot is to go out and dwell in temporary dwelling locations, to dwell in tents, usually out of the city, going away from, you know, the cities and into, you know, the, you know, state parks, or, you know, sometimes the backyard's fine, but you know, but I find it interesting that this time period where Yah would have us go and congregate and go and, you know, dwell in tents is also the time period that you have the enemy's high holy days, right? Halloween landings in October. And what is the premise of Halloween? Well, people dress up as ghouls and goblins, and they go into the cities, going door to door and all interacting in the cities, while we as believers often are drawn out and go camping. So, it's just it's an interesting time period, and there's a dichotomy there that really does show a separation with believers and the world system and how they celebrate their holy days and how we celebrate Yahuwah's days.
Yeah, boy, you just said a whole bunch of stuff that's got me thinking. Yeah, I'm not aware, and maybe there is an example. Can you guys think of an example of baptism or a baptism-like scenario prior to Moses being drawn out of the water? I can't think of anything.
No, me neither.
Well, I know we have the example of how in the creation account, there was water,
right? Life
and
was
then
drawn
from
out of
the
water.
waters, is born. The dry land separates from the waters, and how the firmament is placed between the waters above and below, which is a representation of almost a womb, and we're here in the middle. So if we go way back, that's some like Brad Scott, kind of agrobiolinguistic, ancient, looking into the very first few Genesis verses. Really, I'd have to think about that one. I can't think of anything like more explicit.
Yeah, I think it might be onto something there, because he's the prophet like unto Moses, and just like his life was in danger as an infant, and he was hidden away. We have Yeshua in a similar situation, and Moses is drawn out of water, and by the time of Yeshua, baptism had been taking place. I mean, that was obviously a thing back then. That's interesting, man.
Nope. Well, was an example of
you'd been
coming
saved
through water,
saved through water. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was even just thinking as a counterfeit of that the beast comes out of the sea.
Oh yeah.
Of Revelation. So that would be a counterfeit of that. But yeah, man, I mean, a lot of interesting things to chew on that you were just talking about there. And also, we have true beast feast taking place in the month of October with Halloween. I mean, that's about as evil as it gets. And for churches to do, we're doing a fall festival, they do that, as a substitute for Halloween, but many in the church won't do the actual fall festival of Sukkot. Kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
All right. Let me switch over here just a second. And I'm just going to put up the, let me see if I can put up a hold screen here while I get a few things organized on this side here. So we'll call an end to the popular vote, so to speak. 217 votes, it looks like, total. Let me just double check something. 29, 28, 26. Yeah, okay, cool. So let me share this on the screen. You guys have the other link, right? I gave it to you in the Skype chat. So let me switch over to this other screen here, and we'll get the final tally. Just a second here. Boom. Okay, so over on the Virtual House Church logo competition page, we've got a total of, let me just refresh, make sure. Yep, refresh, 217 total. So we're counting the ballots here, folks. We're not going to have any missing ballots in the garbage or in the river here. Okay, so by popular opinion, logo number 25, that was this one right here, 25 and 26 both placed in the top 10. The only difference I can tell between 25 and 26 is the highlight of the Yod He Vav He in the middle. I think that's the only difference between the two. So we had 25, 29 is for the biblical cosmologists out there. And 9 is this one here. And I already talked about 26, and 21 is this one right here. So I created a deciding the top 10 winner page, and that would be this one right here. So with the same ones, 25, 29, 9, 21, and 26. Let me just go back and look at that again real quick. Make sure 25, 25, 29, 29, 9, 9, 26, and 21. 26 and 21. Okay. So, Jake, since you got to go first, why don't you go ahead and tell us which one you think is the favorite of the top 5 for you?
All right, here. Am I on mute here? Oh,
no,
okay.
I can hear you.
Okay, so I really think. Okay, so for right now, I'll So I got to give one. I got to choose one.
Yeah, you got to. Did you got the link right so you can actually cast your vote?
I don't know if I can cast my vote, but I am
Okay.
looking at
Okay.
the top 5 here. So
yeah, if you could see the top 5, there should be you should also see a vote thing on the right side of it, or scrolling down.
Gotcha. Okay, I can't see that.
Cool.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Should I just say which one I'm liking, or
well,
what?
Yeah, go ahead.
What
Go ahead and talk through your decision. Like what did you like about it, and which one do you think?
Okay, so I really liked how easy to read and poppin' logo number 9 was. I did like how that stood out. Comparatively, the only other one that popped out as much to me was 28, I think, but that one didn't make it into the top 5 there. But that was my my other favorite, was number 28, that had the big VHC on it with the scripture logo. So for whoever made that one, good job. I really liked that one. But if we're limited to these top 5 right now, it's between number 21 and number 9 for me. And number 21, I really liked, just because I love that they have the little zeets on there. Man, what a cool idea. Just tied onto the side of the logo. I really like the sheaves of wheat and the Torah scriptures and getting back to basics. So in terms of just design and for reasons of aesthetically pleasing, and it has all of the iconography that I think is great to associate with church, like the wheat and the zeets. I kind of have settled for my vote on I believe it's number 21. Yep, 21,
All
with
right.
a close runner-up being number 9.
Okay, so can you push the button for logo design 21?
Okay, I will do that. Here we go.
Let me know when you've done it, and I'll try to refresh here.
All right.
So it should say, if everything works right here. Whoa, how did it come up with? Oh, other people are voting. So other people have found this page somehow. We've been hacked already. There's only 3 people here. There's 4 votes already cast. Somebody's hacked us. We've been hacked. See, even Virtual House Church is not immune to voter fraud. Well, you guys are hearing it anyway. So since I can't use the logo because somebody's hacked us, apparently.
This election is rigged.
It's total. See, I even tried to hide the URL so people couldn't do it. Man. All right, so I'm gonna write this down physically then. Jake 21. All right, Juan, what did you pick?
Oh, this is a difficult one. I told you when I saw this at the beginning, Rob. I'm debating myself exactly on the same 2 that Jake mentioned. I really like the logo, the number 9. I think it's from a design point of view, I really like it. The colors, it's related to a house. We are virtually joining in this house. So I really like it. I think it's from a design point of view, it's really, really good. But also the number 21, I like it. I like it very much because of the same comment than Jake. The seat is a great point. the only fact to have the two stones over there with the commandments also is very significant and meaningful to what we're doing in the Virtual House Church. So I like it very much. So I'm gonna make your life difficult, Rafa, a little bit.
Okay.
So so I'm gonna vote for the number 9.
Okay.
So you're gonna have the final decision.
Jeez, I get to be the bad guy here, huh? Okay. Okay. So Juan. Okay, Jake did 21, and Juan. Did you hit the button? For 9.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit it now.
Okay, you hit it, and we'll see what the voter fraud says. Okay.
You got it.
See, there's 6 there now. Okay. All right. So anyway, we'll know that this has been hacked. There hasn't been 6 votes. There's been 1 vote by Jake for 21 and Juan Carlos for 9. Man, it was difficult, man. There was going back to the other page here. First of all, thank you to everybody that contributed, that played a part in this. Really appreciate it. What a great turnout. I mean, to have, what do we have, 39 here, with some have multiple variations of the same logo like these 2 right here. But, everybody did really cool stuff here. And I really want to say thank you to everybody who participated. Wow. Very cool. And a hard decision. So that's why I want to narrow it down to 5 to make it a little bit easier for us. All of these 5, I really like all of them. Between 25 and 29, I think I would go at 25, which was the popular vote, just because I think it's a little cleaner with less of a highlight of the Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. Actually, this would make a great collector's coin. Like if we were to hire a company to make a collector's coin or something. In fact, I may go ahead and do that. I think that's pretty cool. Make a limited edition Virtual House Church collector coin or something like that. Pretty cool. And for those who are into biblical cosmology, this is really well done. I really like this, but just for the sake of not turning people off immediately, that aren't on that page so far. I mean, we got to respect our brothers and sisters that don't quite get it. Although I'll tell you what, guys, I'm just going to warn you in advance. When we do the Virtual House Church next week, we're starting in Genesis, and I'm not going to hold anything back. Cosmology is right there laid out very clearly for us in the next store portion. Logo number 9 is very clean. This makes for good, business cards and things of that nature. A very clean logo, and it actually kind of reminds me of like homeschooling or something. And since we're doing a home Bible study fellowship, I really like that. And again, 26 is pretty much the same as 25, except for the highlighted Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. But man, right from the beginning, when I first saw this one, I got to say, this has been my favorite all along. And so I'm going to go ahead and break the tiebreaker here and go with logo number 21. So logo number 21 is the winner. Yay. And if we go to the woo, yeah. And thank you guys.
I don't have my shofar here, I keep it in the other place and with the sukkah, so we cannot blow the shofar.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well,
yeah.
Well. Let me go back to this, and I'm going to go ahead and put my vote in for 21, and then see what happens right here. Well, even with the voter fraud, it was still 21. So whoever threw in the extra votes still voted for 21 anyway. So 21 is the winner. And if we go to the Virtual House Church Discord page on the logo competition, let me see who did that one. That was, let me see. We'll find out who the winner is. In the meantime, I believe we promised the winner. Kevin and Amanda said they were going to give a bunch of printed calendars, I think. And of course, I was going to do the 5 workbooks. Okay, so it's a user on the Discord as White Israelite did that logo. Yeah, there we go. So this person right here, White Israelite, you are the winner. Yay! And so we'll have to get your contact information, and then we can send you your prize on that. And for those who are not yet joined up, I'm going to go ahead and take this opportunity. With our Virtual House Church server, there's a link right there in the chat room for those who would like to join in the conversation for other things, maybe we'll have other competitions in the future, but there's different rooms you can have the general conversation. Of course, we just did the logo competition. Hebrew learning, biblical cosmology should heat up next week, probably. Prayer closet, what about Paul? And I'll probably be adding some new channels to the server shortly. So anyway, let me switch back here. Jake, any parting words? I know you have to get going. Anything else you'd like to say before you leave on either the Torah portion, the half Torah portion, or anything else in general?
Yeah, just it's been so great getting to study with you guys, and I'm excited to get started once again going through the cycle, and I hope everybody has a blessed Sukkot. Whenever, whatever day you're on or whatever, this is an amazing time where we're actually commanded to rejoice. Like, oh, how terrible and a bondage and oppressing that is. My goodness. He says, rejoice before me. And so, I hope you guys all have an awesome time keeping those hard commandments to keep, right? So, I'm just so excited that get to come and fellowship with other people, and I hope everybody, no matter where you guys are or how you're celebrating it, that it's a blessed time and you guys are filled with joy, because, this is the time that when Yahushua came down from his big fast, right, he was tempted by Satan, that he came down to Jerusalem and declared himself the fountain of living water. And that is so significant, and is through our faith in him that really we find that fountain of living water. And that's the same thing that he shared with that woman at the well, right? I come and drink from me, and I will give you waters where you'll never thirst again. What does that mean? Well, our Messiah is why we celebrate these appointed times. This is also a likely time period for his birth. There's of course the Feast of Trumpets, possibility out there, but also the Feast of Sukkot is another likely time that he could have been born. Born on the first day, circumcised on the 8th day. So, whenever people look at these feasts and why you're keeping them, don't let any man judge you for new moons and festivals. Whenever you're coming out of the pagan system and the world's holidays, don't let people judge you when you're trying to keep Bible things and Bible ways, because they are all so crammed full of information and characteristics that we can learn about our Messiah. And so it's an amazing blessing that this is maybe my third, maybe fourth, like really Sukkot that I've really tried to practice. My first Passover was 2015, and it's just been an amazing journey of learning these things. And every year there's all new types of revelations and insights that people bring to the table, because we're all coming hungry, to discuss the word of Yah. And so it's so exciting to be, here in this time and, rejoice, because it's the feast is here, and we've been waiting all year for it. So I hope you guys have a blessed time, and I'll see you guys next Virtual House Church.
All right. Thanks so much, Jake.
Amazing.
Hey, tell Steve and everybody else we said hi for us. Wish we were there. All right.
All right.
Kasameach to everybody.
Thanks, bro.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. Well, that was fun. Oops, there we go.
Yeah, it was really fun, Rolf. We were waiting, just to get to Sukkot, and not only to that, also to have this voting for the logo of the Virtual House. It was really fun.
Yeah, unbelievable. Even that, I tried to make it as secure as I could, and all that stuff. It's kind of sobering how votes, it's like our votes don't really matter, in this country, as far as I'm concerned, because the Electoral College alone shows you that our votes don't really, the popular vote can be whatever it is, and the Electoral College can just totally overturn it. But still, there's so much fraud going on that it's hard to know what the truth is, and it's surely going to be contested. Even here on the Virtual House Church, we had problems, and I tried really hard to set up a system that wouldn't get hacked and whatever. But anyway, that was fun. I enjoyed it, and again, thank you to everybody that participated. I really appreciate everything, and all the logos were really good in different ways. but I think that logo 21 definitely had all the elements in it, including the tsetse, which was really cool. So
Yeah.
I may get with the creator of that logo and maybe tweak it just a little bit as far as the colors go to be a better match for the website. Although I will say I'm also working on a new website for Virtual House Church. This was,
Really?
yeah, this website, it's been around since like 2013, and it was done on Google Sites platform. I'll probably do it on a different platform and make it a lot more of a cleaner website than it is right now. But anyway, changes are in the works and all that stuff. But back to the Torah portion. You were talking about, well, actually both you and Jake were talking about Sukkot and what it means now as well as back then, and what it's going to mean in the future. And I think you mentioned it, or somebody, or maybe I was just thinking it. Did you mention Zechariah chapter 14? If you did,
no.
I think
we didn't mention this.
Okay, so
this is quite important. This is what is written over there.
Yeah. Let me switch over here to Zechariah chapter 14. Why should we keep the feast? Why? These are Moedim. They're appointed times of Yahuwah. These are not the feasts of the Jews. Leviticus 23. These are the feasts of Yod He Vav He, feasts of Yahuwah, and they are Moedim, appointed times that we are to Mikra in Hebrew, which means rehearse. Why do you rehearse? You rehearse to get it right. When there's the main event, you better know your lines and know your mark, and do what the script says. And well, we're going to be doing Sukkot in the millennial reign, and so you might as well start practicing now, because it is all designed to be set up as a foreshadowing of what's to come. And in this end times context, we see in Zechariah chapter 14, I'm going to begin here in verse 16. And it shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, Yod He Vav He, of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. I found this interesting because it talks about everyone that is left of the nations which came against Jerusalem. Presumably, this being in an end times context, basically this is those who survive Armageddon, it sounds like.
Yes.
Very interesting. They will go up from
and actually somehow there is also a connection with the war that's happening after the millennial kingdom. When Satan is being released once again.
Oh, Gog and Magog.
It's the Gog and Magog war. So also is connected to that.
Yeah. So in either case, after whoever is left, after all that, they're going to go from year to worship to the King. And it shall be that whoso will not come up of all the families of the earth, all the families of the earth, not just Israelites, not just black people, not just white people. There's the black Hebrew Israelite movement out there and white Hebrew Israelism. I'm against both, frankly. I think both are completely absurd. It's not about melanin content. It's about your heart. But it says all families of the earth. It says, and it shall come to pass that whoso will not come up of all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, even upon them shall be no rain. So you're not going to get any rain. And what I found, it's always interesting about Sukkot. It's a little bit frustrating when you're camping. But typically within the first 3 days of Sukkot, there's usually rain. At least every year that I've done it so far, within the first few days of starting Sukkot, it rains. And I think it was maybe it was the one that from the 2013 broadcast. I was listening to that one. It might have been that one where we were camping, and I just bought this brand new tent. I had this real nice tent, and we built a community sukkah. So we had a sukkah that Kevin got some lumber and stuff, and we got branches and all that stuff, and we made this large community sukkah for all of us to hang out in. But we all had individual tents to sleep in, and I bought this real nice big tent thing, and it rained like hardcore. Like it was just like this torrential downpour. Now we were on a lake, and there was a really nice lake house that the people allowed us to use it. And so everybody went, and I'm like, no, the commandment is to stay in your tents and your sukkah. So I don't remember if anybody else did it, but I think I was the only one that stayed in the tent, and everybody else went inside. And it came down so hard, like it collapsed the tent on me, and it was just like torrential downpour. I'm like, okay, all right, I give up. I'm going in. So rain when you're camping is not so much a blessing, but in an agricultural society, that's a real good thing. You want that. You want the latter rains. You want the rains for harvest and all that stuff. So, it says here, if you don't go to Sukkot, you're not going to get any rain. And if the family of Egypt go not up and come not and have no rain, there shall be the plague. So if you're in Egypt, you're not only going to not get rain, you're going to get a plague also, wherewith the Lord will smite the heathen that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. This shall be the punishment of Egypt and the punishment of all nations. All nations. That's everybody, guys. All that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. And, this may sound like a harsh commandment, but I mean, really, this is the particular Moedim that comes with a commandment to have fun. Like, it's supposed to be joyous. Like, I command you to be full of joy. Oh, the horror of legalism, and you use your tithe money to do it even. Oh, use your tithe money to have fun. It's meant to be a joyous occasion. It's meant to, but it's meant to foreshadow fellowship with the King of Kings, Lord of Lords in Jerusalem in an end times context. So you might as well get used to practicing having fun and being united with our Savior. Start practicing now.
Yes.
Why not, right?
This is the moment.
Yeah, this is the time to do so.
This is the moment to practice. Actually, Robert, I'm sorry to interrupt, because I always say the same, and I think this is totally connected to what you mentioned. We are not going to be able to fully observe this feast now in the dispersion. Mm-hmm. There is a lot of commandments, and we have been going through the different portions in the Torah, in the spiritual house, that we can do it only in Jerusalem and when the Malchut, the kingdom, is established. Mm-hmm. So why I always what I always like to say is that we, as the first and second generation of Israel, and went through the wilderness for 40 years, we are also in the same process. They were in the wilderness for that period of time, learning how to keep the commandments, because that was the moment to learn before they were crossing to the promised land. Because it was the commanded by Yahuwah that in the promised land they needed to keep it without failure. Mm-hmm. So now we're in the same process. This is the moment for us to learn how to do all of this. We are going to make mistakes. Most probably, it's a journey in itself. It's walking. We're walking the way, and this is part of the walk in the way of Yahuwah. But it's the moment to learn how to do it with all our heart, with all our spirit, all our strength. Because when the time comes and we're going to gather together, we're going to keep it, all of us together with our King in the promised land. So it's the time to rejoice. And the other day I was looking for some information and just to look for a few studies that I have been working on, and I came to watch a video of a Jewish rabbi, and this person mentioned something that was very interesting. I want to share with you because it's related to your experience with the rain. Everybody is waiting not to have rain during Sukkot if you're camping, and no matter where you are in the earth, maybe close to the equator, you're not going to have this kind of problems. But I can tell you, in my case, no matter that in a different season, because we already started spring. This is the period of raining, the last rain. Mm-hmm. So it's quite easy to get rain as well if we go outside to have to do some camping. So what this person was sharing is that they are expecting during Sukkot not to have rain, not to have the experience that you had there, Rob. But this is somehow it's a quite weird because everybody expects rain. Rain is a blessing in order to produce and to get the fruit of the land. But he made an interesting connection that Sukkot means Yahuwah dwelling with us, Elohim dwelling with us. As I said before, is a foreshadow of the kingdom of Yahuwah on earth by the hand of Yahushua HaMashiach. It's a foreshadow of the booth of Yahuwah, as is written, the tabernacle of Yahuwah is written in Revelation, coming to earth, and he's going to live with his people, among his people once again. But it's also a foreshadow from the past, what happened at the very beginning in creation. And that's the connection he made, because during creation, there was no rain. Rain came later, during Noah time. So there was no rain in the Garden of Eden. It was a kind of a dew or something like that was watering the land. So by the only fact of not trying not to get rain or thinking not to get rain during Sukkot is also a kind of a reminder of how was all of this experience in the Gan Eden when Yahuwah himself was taking care of his creation and the fruit of the earth. And the second connection he made, and for me was also amazing, because in the Gan Eden there was 4 rivers. Actually, the water was coming from the Eden and was split in 4 rivers. And there was multiple fruit trees together with the tree of life in the Garden of Eden, at the middle of the Garden of Eden. And it's exactly the same thing we see in the restored creation in Revelation, where we see the tree of life side by side of the river coming from the temple of Yahuwah, from the presence of Yahuwah, in a kind of parallel to what happened at the very beginning. And this is everything connected to this period of time, to Sukkot. So when you mentioned about rain, I just remember this what I saw, and I think it was interesting to share it. How water is so important, and we were discussing with Jake before how much important is water. Even Yahushua himself, he was declaring this in the middle, at the last day of the feast, that everybody was thirsty to go to him because he has the living waters, referring to the Ruach HaKodesh. So, and we will see starting next week, when we discuss about creation, about water. There's no scripture in the creation week that says that Elohim created water. Mm-hmm. For sure, he created everything. Right. But it's not clear when water was created. Mm-hmm. So there is an importance on water that it deserves a deep study just to understand what it means.
I've always been fascinated by that. Even when I was of the old cosmology mindset, looking at the creation account, water's already there. The Spirit of God is moving across the face of the waters. Like, where'd the waters come from? That's just fascinating to me, that water was not created. And where does it come from? Like, what do we do with that? I don't know, except to say that it's obviously very important, it's right there. And the Spirit of Yahuwah is moving across the face of the waters right there in the very beginning, right from the start. Now, this is an area of study that's new for me. And that is the idea of a pre-Adamic civilization that was destroyed, and that Genesis is talking about the reset of the new world being created. So in that mindset, yes, the world we are living in today is about 6,000 years old-ish, according to the biblical timeline. But that there was a world before that was destroyed. And I've been somewhat resistant to that for most of my life, but in recent years, the more I look into it, the more I'm at least open to the possibility that could be the case. And one of the reasons why is because we see in the book of Revelation that the world that we're in right now is going to get burned up, and that there's going to be a creation of a new heaven and a new earth. I call it the Great Reset. So we're going to get a reset button at some point in the future. It's going to reset and recreate everything. So my opinion is, if we're going to get a reset, I have no problem believing that we could be living in a reset. And one of the other reasons that I believe that is because as finite beings who have a beginning, we tend to think of eternity starting from our beginning going future, but eternity goes the other way just as far as it goes the future. There's eternity past just as like there is eternity future. So if this current world of existence, biblically speaking, is only 6,000 years old-ish, what was Yahuwah doing for eternity past before that? How many creations has he dealt with in a variety of ways? And are we the only place that he's done that with? Now, in the Copernican model of the cosmos, when people started to entertain the Copernican model of the cosmos and start to believe that way, the so-called church fathers started thinking in terms of plurality of worlds, meaning, well, if we are a planet going around a sun and all the stars that we see up there are also suns that have planets going around them, could there then be other worlds out there? And if there are other worlds out there, then did Yeshua have to die for them too? And when you go down this line of thought, it becomes very problematic, biblically speaking. You run into some serious problems. And this is one of yet many reasons, yet another reason, but one of many, why I accept biblical cosmology over Copernican cosmology, because it resolves a lot of that stuff. And you have the Catholic Church saying, hey, if ET shows up, we'll baptize them, ... if they need it. And they're saying things like, well, if there is this plurality of worlds, it's conceivable that some of these worlds didn't sin like Adam did. So they would be unfallen creatures. We are fallen creatures. There would be creatures that never fell from grace, that never sinned. And in that case, we'd have something to learn from them. I mean, this is very dangerous, theologically speaking, very problematic. So, now that said, what I call the Yahuwah terrarium, which we'll get into quite a bit in next week's study, it's an enclosed system. It's a firmament enclosed system. And everything that we see in the cosmos is in that enclosure. Sun, moon, and stars, earth, everything is in that enclosure. So everything that we can possibly observe, or in any way interact with our senses is all within that dome enclosed world. But is that the only dome enclosed world would be my question. And biblically speaking, this is just fun to think about. There's nothing that we could ever base anything on, except that he says, in my Father's house are many mansions. And when I look at that, some people think that that's talking about rooms in the New Jerusalem, and it may be true. That very likely could be the case, that he's prepared a room for us in the New Jerusalem. Hope so. I think that'd be awesome. I believe that if I don't have blood relation to one of the 12 tribes of Israel, that I'm grafted in through the gate door branch of Ephraim, because he was prophesied to become a multitude of nations. And so that's Romans chapter, it's the whole entire book of Hosea combined with Romans chapter 7 through 11 and Ephesians 2. So now others say, because there's only two sticks, and was it Ezekiel 37, I think, the two sticks, stick of Ephraim and stick of Judah. You got to be on one stick. So I say, pick a stick, right? You got to be on one of them. Now, some say as believers in Yeshua, because he's of the tribe of Judah, that we get grafted in on the stick of Judah. Great. I don't care which one I'm grafted in on. I just want to make sure I'm on one of them. Either grafted in to Judah through Yeshua or grafted into Ephraim through the prophecy of Genesis 48. Either way, that's how you're going in. So, then that would be the gate through which we will enter on the New Jerusalem to go to our mansion, if that's the case, if that's talking about mansions being prepared in heaven in the New Jerusalem. I've wondered, and this is just pure speculation, just me thinking out loud, is if this terrarium that we're in is at the foot of his throne. So if you can imagine a heavenly throne room with a floor, and right below that floor is the top of the dome that is our enclosure. Could there be other dome enclosures in the throne room? I don't know. Fun to speculate about. There's no way I can prove it either way. Just some of the things that I think about when I think out loud on this topic.
No, this is really interesting, Rob. Even before coming to this truth on the scripture about the cosmology, many years ago, I remember discussing when I was in church with my dad about the full creation week, and as you said, we are gonna go through this starting next week. And I think there are a few evidences to think that there was a pre-creation or something like that. I think it's not crazy, but it's not a crazy theory. It requires a lot of study. I think I also could accept that possibility as well, especially in the way that is written in the chapter 1 and chapter 2, and the first 2 verses of chapter 1 in Genesis. So it's something to check in more details and to study. At the end, if we are not able to get to that understanding in these days, for sure we will get the knowledge directly from Yahushua during the millennial kingdom. That's going to be awesome just to understand. And we can go crazy even in theories, because as you said, the new earth and new heaven will come, as is written in the book of Revelation. So, and we know that time is something that He created. So who can tell us that what is written in Revelation about the new earth and new creation is not the same? New heaven is not the same earth and heaven that was created in Genesis. No, I was thinking on this, and it's a crazy theory, and we can go that crazy if we want. But the same happening with what is written in John. John saw a messenger talking about a sealed book, and it's exactly the same thing that Daniel, the prophet Daniel, saw as well. So what if they saw the same revelation at the same time? So it could be exactly the same with the creation. So many things to study, and most probably we're not going to get the wisdom for all of that, all of that in these days. But it is interesting to look the word in the word of Yahuwah in this way, that we can find these crazy things, amazing things that he created for all of us.
Yeah, totally. Some people speculate on some people are in the chat room are asking, why wouldn't Yahuwah tell us of a reset in Genesis if there was one? Why would He? The Genesis 1 account is written for the new creation that was about to be made. What came before? Well, there may be hints of it in Jeremiah and in other places that talks about total destruction, and that's a big topic to get into. There's a lot to look at there, but there are many topics that I have in the past said, I had already made my mind up, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to look into that. There's no reason to look into that. Well, as I get older and get grayer, I see the wisdom in taking the time to look at some of these other things. And, as I've begun to look into some of these things, I've started to believe, what we very likely could be in a reset. There would be no reason for Him to tell us that, hey, in the beginning, this is a reset. He's just saying, in the beginning, this is the world that's being created. But for those who accept the idea that we are in a reset, it's very much as if this is and I got to be careful how I say this. It's like a prison world, that there might have been a rebellion of the fallen ones that preceded it, and that they are stuck in this realm under the firmament because they can't go above the firmament. Like they're stuck here. There's a lot to unpack in that, but certainly not we could get to in 20 minutes here. But I don't. And Zen Garcia and I are doing quite a bit of discussion on this in our Quest for Truth series. We've talked about it quite extensively in some of the earlier broadcasts. But getting back to this week's Torah portion, we're jumping ahead to next week's.
Yeah, exactly.
The blessings. Jake makes a good point. I would be interested to do a study of comparison between the blessings that Jacob gave over the children of Israel with the blessings that Moses gave here. And it appears that certainly in the Parsha in 60 seconds, it talked about Asher being, getting the number one blessing. And that kind of jumped out at me. I was like, that is kind of interesting. Did you have any thoughts on the blessing of Asher?
No, actually, now that you mentioned, I didn't notice this.
Yeah, let me go back.
Actually, yes. In the version of the scripture I have, it said Asher is most blessed of sons.
Yeah.
that he would be accepted by his brothers and his food in order. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, and of Asher, most blessed of sons be Asher. May he be the favorite of his brothers, and may he dip his
Yeah.
foot in oil. Your bars are iron and bronze, and as your days, so is your strength. Very interesting. Now there's a guy, I forget his name now. I met him a while back. He was reading this one day in study, and he works in the oil industry. And when he was looking at this, he should dip his foot in oil. He began to do a study on Asher in the land of Asher, the region of Israel that Asher inherited. And based on scripture, he decided to do a geological survey over there. He pulled some resources together, got some people over there, and went to Israel in the land that was promised to Asher. And the early tests came back that, wow, there could very likely be a massive oil deposit there, untapped in the land of Israel. And Zion, I think it's Zion Gas and Oil, I think was the name of the company that was either founded or took on this project to look for oil over there and to drill for it. This has been a while since I looked into it, but when I did, it was quite the story behind it was quite fascinating. Let me put it that way. But this guy just reading scripture thought, I wonder, and he goes over and does some tests and came back with, wow, this could be something there.
No, that's really interesting. Actually, even if we look at it in that angle, when he's talking in the verse 25 about iron and bronze, it could be related to metals as well.
Uh-huh.
And by the way, I don't know in the King James how it says, but in my version it says bronze.
Yeah, bronze.
But when I was in one of my trips to Israel, I had the chance to visit one of the oldest copper mine in the south of Israel, in the desert. And in that moment, I learned that every time when we see bronze in the scripture, it's not really bronze; it's talking about copper.
Oh, really?
And you know what bronze is? It's not bronze is not natural. It's a lesion. It's a mix between the
alloy,
iron and copper. Yes. So maybe it could be related. Now that we're talking about the share, maybe it could be related that it's kind of less in metals, in copper and iron, or a share.
So I'm not familiar with the chemical composition. So you're saying bronze is a mixture of iron and copper?
This is I'm not so sure on the metals, but it's a mixture.
It's
of copper and
alloy.
something else.
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't know enough really to comment on that. That is interesting. And the next verse is interesting too, 26. There is none like God, I assume that's Elohim, O Jeshurun, who rides through the heavens to your help, majestic through the skies. He subdues the ancient gods and shatters the forces of old. I've always been fascinated by that, going back to the Ten Commandments. You shall have no other God before me. Now, growing up, we read about mythology and stuff like that. And when we think mythology, we just think, fictional story, so we read about the Greek myths and the Egyptian myths and all that stuff. And we just say, fantasy. Well, but why would there be a command to have no other gods before me if that's just fantasy? And we see that he subdues ancient gods, and there's other places where he talks about he goes to war with the gods. Like, these were entities that were real. They were spiritual Elohim entities. Mike Heiser refers to them as the part of the divine council that rebelled against Yahuwah. They are entities. And I saw a study that Chuck Missler had done a long time ago about the plagues of Egypt, and how each of the plagues, they weren't just random, hey, let's punish the people this way. They weren't just random plagues just for the sake of doing stuff to people. Each of the plagues was a direct assault against a different god of Egypt. So, whatever the plague was, there was a god of little g god of Egypt that was in charge of, that area, whether it be weather or crops or animals or frogs or flies or whatever. It was and the last one, the death of the firstborn, was a direct assault against Osiris. So, he's always been at war with the other gods, and again, this goes to the whole idea of a prison world, is that, if the initial rebellion that took place before Genesis 1, if those entities have been placed here for judgment, for confinement, they're still vying. It's almost like a great contest. It's like, okay, let's create humans and let them decide. We did a virtual house church. Let's decide whose God is God, right? Let the people have the variety of gods to choose from. And we see who wins in the end, right? It takes out all the gods ultimately, and every knee will bow, every knee will confess that Yeshua is Christ, is the Lord. So I don't know, interesting things to think about.
Yeah, I think there is a strong connection with what you have been sharing for years, Rob, about the Nephilim.
Mm-hmm.
And but before commenting on this, just to clarify what I said about bronze, I just look at it. And bronze is a mixture between copper. It's around 80% of copper, and between 15-20% of other metals like aluminum, manganese, nickel, or zinc.
Oh, so it's not. So it's not iron and copper. It's several other metals. So he's talking about that there shall be bars of iron and of alloy.
Correct. So what I heard of every time that the scripture and the Hebrew word that was translated as bronze, in reality is talking about copper, and it makes all sense. For example, everything that was built in the tabernacle needs to be natural.
Yeah.
So everything was built with the copper instead of bronze. So that's interesting to study.
That is an interesting study. I did some looking into that quite some time ago, and there's really good reason to believe that Solomon mined the United States. I think up in like Ohio area for copper. That he had people all the way over here getting copper, quite a lot of it, from what I understand, for what he was doing.
Wow, interesting. It is exactly what I told you. There is one of the oldest mine in the world. It's at the south of Israel, and it is believed that was Solomon, the one that built that place in order to dig copper. So it's interesting. You mentioned it's about the U.S. So coming back to what you said, Rob. If we go to these additional gods. And if we go back to the Deuteronomy chapter 32, this is the Song of Moses. In the verse 17, part of the song, it says that in my version, they slaughtered to demons, not to Eloah.
Mm-hmm.
Gods or mighty ones they did not know, new ones who came lately, which your fathers did not fear. So there is a direct and a strong connection, and even Paul is talking about that when he's talking about food that is being slaughtered or presented to demons. And he said that he is pushing us and teaching us that we cannot share the cup of the master and the cup of demons. This I think is in 1 Corinthians. I don't remember the chapter. So is the connection. What is a demon? And that's the interesting part of the revelation of the book of Enoch. Yeah. A demon is a spirit of the Nephilim. It's a spirit of the giants. So all these gods from the past, the people started to worship them as gods. But basically, are the giants of the past, are the Nephilim. That the people transformed them as gods, and at the end they started to worship them, and they were demons. Mm-hmm. So interesting in this connection that is written exactly on the Son of Moses that we discussed about last week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot here. I was just looking also at the portion from the New Testament. The portion from the prophets that I have listed here is Joshua chapter 1. Remind me about that if I forget, if I rabbit trail off too far here. bring me back to
Okay.
Don't let me forget about Joshua. But looking at the New
Okay.
Testament, you can click on those scriptures and it takes you to the New Testament portions. It's talking about transfiguration. So we mentioned that in our commentary earlier, that Moses did get to go to the promised land. I tend to believe the idea that he had closed his eyes and he woke up here. Very, very likely a possibility in my opinion. Although I say that, but I struggle with Yeshua's parable of the Lazarus and the rich man. And so and I've had this discussion with Lex Meyer, because he believes in the soul sleep concept that you go to sleep and then you wake up at the resurrection. And yet there was the story of Lazarus and the rich man that shows consciousness in a place called Abraham's bosom. And so, presumably if that scenario is true, if that wasn't just a parable, and many scholars point to that particular parable and say, well, this is the one where he actually uses names and stuff. So, they tend to think that it's not just an allegorical story, but it's potentially an actual event. So if that's the case, then Moses would have been among those who were in paradise that were liberated, and presented as first fruits offerings. I imagine that would have been the saints of old that got up and walked around in the Gospel of Matthew, at the time of the crucifixion. Whatever the case may be, he does make it into the promised land here. And there's several. We have the Matthew portion of it. We have the Mark portion of it, the Luke portion, all talk about the same thing. Jesus's betrayal and arrest right here. Not quite sure why that is paired up with this one. I'd have to kind of go look at that. Then the resurrection and the walk to Emmaus, which I've always loved that story, the walk to Emmaus after the resurrection. And it says that he began with Moses to tell them who he was. Let's see here.
That's a beautiful story. Just the only fact that he's mentioning Moses, starting from Moses, is a reinforcement that for us that we need to study the full word.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that was the beginning prayer for me that led me to doing what we're doing here at the Virtual House Church. Was, I saw both Yeshua doing this with the guys on the road to Emmaus. It says he began with Moses to tell them, who he was. And we see also that Paul did the same thing in the last chapter of the book of Acts. Let me go back over here to the Luke account on the road to Emmaus. This is Luke 24 and verse 27. It says, "Then Jesus took them through the writings of Moses and all the prophets, explaining from all the scriptures the things concerning himself." And, their response when they finally recognized who he was, when they finally realized who they were talking to, was, wow, did not our hearts burn within us as he opened up the scriptures to us? And, I was always like, I want that heartburn. That's the good kind of heartburn. I get, digestive heartburn every now and then. That's no fun. But, this is a good heartburn right here. When they went through Moses, it says Jesus took them through the writings of Moses to explain who he was. And in the last chapter of the book of Acts, we see that Paul's doing the same thing. He's in a rented house and he's starting with Moses and he's telling people who Yeshua is. And the Bereans, that Paul writes about, the Bereans searched the scriptures daily to see whether the things that the apostles were saying were true. Well, the scriptures that they were going through weren't Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John in the writings of Paul. It was Moses and the prophets. So, my prayer was like, I can make a good case for my Messiah, certainly from the Gospels. And I could go to places like Isaiah, several chapters in the book of Isaiah. Psalm 22 maybe would be another one I could point to. But that'd be, with the exception of maybe a few other Old Testament references, that'd be about it. I couldn't do it from Moses. And so I was like, where is Yeshua in the first 5 books of the Bible? I couldn't, at that time, I couldn't imagine it. Now I'm like, wow, he's everywhere. He's all over it. But that began my quest. It began with the prayer, like, Father, this is what this is what Yeshua did, and this is what Paul did, and this was what the Bereans were doing. Show me. Like, I want to see where your son is, because I came to Torah looking for Nephilim and Nimrod. Like, I'm like, oh, look at Nephilim here, giants there, hybrids everywhere. And, as I'm going crazy, finding all these cool things, in my studies on those topics, I felt like the Holy Spirit was tapping me on the shoulder, and Father's like, hey, yeah, my son's in there too. And wow, where? So that's when I started looking for it. Here we are, 10 years later, still doing these studies here, but it really started with that. And then there's the ascension. Then we have 2 Peter talking about the day of the Lord's coming. And we also have Jude talking about, does this one have it? Right. Urge to defend.
Yeah.
No.
And actually, before I forget, Rob, even Stephen, when he was preaching in Acts chapter 7, I think, he was telling and preaching, starting from the very beginning, from Genesis.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have the Jude reference here. That's in verse 9. But even Michael, one of the mightiest of the angels, did not dare accuse the devil of blasphemy, but simply said, "The Lord rebuke you." This took place when Michael was arguing with the devil about Moses' body. And, I've always been intrigued by how that is worded there. Like, this is in the New Living Translation, but, even in other English translations, Jude was aware of a text somewhere that told that story. And as far as I know, I'm not aware of anybody that's found that text. If anybody out there happens to know it, put it in the chat room, because I'd love to take a look at it. Sounds like a very interesting story, because it's written very, very matter of factly. If people would have read that, like, oh yeah, we remember hearing about that. So, and then it's in the valley.
Very, very interesting to know where was the source of information. I will take a look in the Dead Sea Scrolls as well, just to see if there's something related to that. Yeah, it would be interesting.
I have the Dead Sea Scroll. I haven't. I mean, it's a thick book. It's like several. What is it? Almost 3 inches thick. It's a pretty thick book. So I certainly haven't read all of it, but it would be interesting. I haven't heard anybody talking about it, though. I would think that if it was in the Dead Sea Scrolls, there would be more people out there, giving commentary on that. Exactly. And it seems like I remember reading. I believe it was in the Maccabees, one of the books of the Maccabees, that the prophet Jeremiah had hid the things of the tabernacle in the place where Moses was buried. Like that Jeremiah was shown that place, because we see at the time of the writing of Deuteronomy, it says nobody knows to this day, where his body is. What is that? Deuteronomy. And so this is also says that, this is at the end of, that's 32. At the end of Deuteronomy.
It's at the end in the chapter 30, in the 34, it says it's mentioning that.
Yeah, 34. So clearly 34 could not have been written by Moses.
Yes.
This is written after Moses had died. So,
correct.
Somebody had to have, presumably maybe Joshua, I don't know. Somebody wrote this story. It says, verse 5, then Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab at the Lord's command. He was buried in a valley in the land of Moab, opposite Beth Peor, but no one knows his burial place to this day. So the question would be, when is that day? Like, how long after this event was Deuteronomy, or at least this chapter of Deuteronomy, penned? It seems to give the indication that this may have been a while. I mean, if this happened like last week, that wouldn't to this day. Since last week, nobody. You know what I mean? That wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense. It would seem to me that some duration of time, presumably a fair number of years, have passed, at least from the death of Moses to the writing of this particular chapter, this closing chapter.
And it's a good chance that more probably Joshua was the one writing this.
It does make sense that he would be the most likely. Of course, then he says if it is Joshua, he's kind of talking pretty highly of himself here, but that's not uncommon in the scriptures either. when they write in third person. But Joshua, son of Nun, was full of the spirit of wisdom because Moses had laid his hands on him, and the Israelites obeyed him, doing as the Lord had commanded Moses. The thing that I struggle with on this is, based on that right there, it says to this day. Again, that sounds like this quite some time after Moses had died. Well, there's a commandment in the Torah not to add or subtract from the Torah. So that then begs the question, when was the Torah finished? Was it finished with the writing of this chapter, which was quite some time after everything that Moses had written? Or was this added in violation to the commandment? I don't know. I don't.
I think that's an interesting point, Rob, and that deserves also an interesting study about what is Torah.
Yeah.
And no matter that we call the 5 first book the Torah, it's part of the tradition that we got this from Moses. I think there is a more deeper meaning about what Torah is, and I think it's the based on what I have been studied throughout the years, Torah is the
instructions.
Is the group of different instruction, mitzvot, commandments.
Yeah.
You have different set of commandments. You have right rulings, and in Hebrew is mishpatim. You have laws, in Hebrew is hukim. You have testimonies, in Hebrew is edut, and all of that are mitzvot. So this is basically Torah. So when we see it written in the scripture that we cannot add or subtract from Torah, I do believe that this is referring exactly to that to that portion. Now that doesn't mean that the entire scripture wasn't revealed, not at all. And actually, there are so many interesting things. I don't know. You have heard about the Bible codes.
Yeah.
That and I think you were mentioning a few virtual house ago that if you take a look from different spaces of characters in Hebrew, you can find the word Torah.
Yes.
With the letter of Yahuwah in the middle.
Yeah.
So I think that this is a different ways to look at it, but it deserves also a deeper study.
Yeah, for sure. The Joshua portion. Joshua 1:8, this book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe and do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then shalt have good success. So why do we study Torah? Well, that's the consistent promise all through the Torah, is that if you do, it's going to go well with you. Spock didn't originate live long and prosper. It goes back to Deuteronomy and the promises, of doing these things. Now, to be clear, neither Juan Carlos, myself, Jake, or Kevin, none of us are saying that we keep the Torah or strive to do anything in our own works for salvation. Because we're all going to fail. None of us can do it perfectly. There's only one person who did perfectly, Yeshua. That's why he was worthy to pay the price for those of us who did transgress the Torah. So we're saved by grace through faith and not of works, lest any man should boast. We believe that. But then as a fruit of your salvation, I would point people to 1 John chapters 2-5, that if you're going to say you're in him, then you should walk even as he walked. Well, how did he walk? He walked in obedience to his Father, perfect obedience. And 1 John 2 starts off, I'm writing these things that you sin not. The next chapter defines sin as transgression of the Torah, the instructions. So I'm writing these things that you do not, violate the instructions, that you do not transgress the law. But if you do, because we all will screw up eventually, we have an advocate, Yeshua, Jesus Christ, the righteous. Yay! That's awesome. We fall, we get back up again, right? And then Yeshua said that there's 2 commandments. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. Well, what does it mean to love God? 1 John chapter 5. This is the love of God, that we keep his commandments. His commandments are not burdensome. It's not rocket science. That's what we are believing and teaching here on the Virtual House Church. Now, the reason I wanted to visit Joshua here is to ask a question. And, really, I'd like to have Jake and Kevin on also. for this question, and maybe I'll reserve it till we finish the book of Leviticus, because we started this year's Torah study virtual house church with the book of Numbers. So
Numbers, you're
yeah,
right.
so we've only done the last two books in 2020, and as we go into the new Torah cycle, by the way, that's called Simchat Torah, I think is the phrase that's used, rejoicing in the Torah, which is after Sukkot. When Sukkot is over, the tradition is to take the big Torah scroll that has the whole 5 books of Moses, and we are all the way at the end of it right now. At the end of the Torah scroll, they do a big ceremony where they roll the Torah scroll all the way back to Genesis, and then the week following Sukkot, we start back up again with Genesis chapter 1 and start a whole new year cycle of reading through the Torah again. Since we started this year's virtual house church towards the end, like the last third of the cycle, I think it makes sense to just continue doing the same thing that we're doing here right now with Deuteronomy, with Genesis, Exodus, and Leviticus. But then my question is, and just kind of want to throw this out there, maybe get people thinking now ahead of time. This is something I wanted to do back when we were doing virtual house church in 2017, was when we finished Deuteronomy, was to just go over into Joshua and then go through the whole Bible, like just continue virtual house church, doing a book, a month or whatever, till we finish the entire Bible. So we go through the whole Bible in the virtual house church, because I've done, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years worth of Torah study, virtual house church Bible study here. So since I have all those resources up, and I'm continuing to update the website, so we have like the 2013 broadcast, we have the 2016 broadcast, 2017 broadcast, and the 2020 broadcast, plus the Your Living Waters notes, and all that. There's 4 years worth of studying Torah with the traditional half Torah and New Testament portions. So rather than continuing to do that, after we finish Leviticus, what do you think about? Let's pick. We can maybe have half of the virtual house church if we continue doing a 2-hour show, like do half of it on the Torah portion, and then go to whatever the next book is. So in this case, it would be Joshua, and then Joshua, Judges, Ruth would just continue through the whole Bible until we finish it. What do you think of that? Doing something like that?
That sounds interesting, Rob. I think it's an amazing idea. Yeah, let's discuss with Jake and Kevin. And you're absolutely right. Every year we are going through the Torah cycles and connecting, and this is what we're trying to do every week, connecting the dots with the different books of the scripture. But having the time to go in more deeper details in each one of the books, I think for me it's really interesting. We should try.
Okay. So yeah, I think it makes sense to continue doing. Well, maybe if we start Joshua next week, if we do the first half of the show, of course, there's so much to talk about with biblical cosmology, but I don't know, maybe I'll just pray about it and think about what makes the most sense. Because Joshua's a fun book, and
Judges as well,
Judges is heavy. There's some pretty hardcore stuff in Judges. But I've read through the Bible before, but to do a study and commentary with you guys, I think would be a lot of fun. There may be a lot of people out there who've never gone through the whole Bible before. So for us to do sort of a chapter by chapter commentary along with the Torah portion, I think that'd be pretty cool. And the other thing that we didn't mention, I think I don't know if it was last week's Torah portion or the week before, one of the recent ones, it says that you're supposed to read the Torah during Sukkot on the 7th year. Yeah. First time I saw that, I thought it was every Sukkot, but it says on the 7th year. So every 7 years, we are supposed to read through the whole Torah. Now, where are we in the 7-year count today? That's the big question. The whole Shemitah and all that kind of stuff. And those who are kind of on that bandwagon right now believe that 1948 is a good year to start the cycle. For me, I don't see any relevance in 1948 that would cause me to believe that. So I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts? Is there anything in your calendar that would show you a reset of a 7-year count? Like, is there anything that happens with the, do you call it the Zadok calendar or the Enoch calendar, or what do you refer to your calendar as?
You can call it in these two names. People know it. I refer to the scripture calendar, but it's connected to Zadok calendar, Enoch calendar. Is the same name.
So, is there anything in the understanding of that would show a marker to help us know where we are in the 7-year cycles?
There's I think it is. This is one the pending part of my own study on the calendar, but it's mostly related to the priestly order. It's something that I haven't not going through it on details, and I have been seriously thinking lately to start studying in more deeper details. And because we see in Chronicles that we have this 24 the head of families of the Kohanim, of the priests, that David set as the orders that they need to serve in the temple. And there's a lot of information in the Dead Sea Scrolls that is connected to this and to the cycles of the luminaries. So I think through the priestly orders, somehow it is possible to see the marker of the Shemitah, of the 7 year. That's a way, and also it's my belief, and it's something again I don't have the answer to the question, but it's my belief that through the luminaries also, especially through the stars, we should be able to recognize when the 7 year of release.
I would think so. I would think so, because it seems like he has something in place for us to understand everything, to understand the seasons, to understand when the year begins, to understand how the months are reckoned, how the weeks are reckoned, how the day is reckoned. So it seemed to me that within all of that, in his perfect calendar time clock, that he has probably put something into place that would help us understand when his 7 year cycles are to be understood and reckoned. So
actually, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I'm 10 years into doing these studies and haven't yet done the command of the 7 year to read the entire Torah during Sukkot. And my only reservation on it was, well, I'd like to, if I'm going to do it, because that's quite an undertaking to do, to read through it all, in just a few days, would be, I want to make sure that I know that I'm on the 7th year when I do it. So I don't have to keep doing it.
The only thing that I wanted to add to the 7 year, that at least in my view, Rob, this one of the reasons why 2017 was so relevant with the sign with the Virgo in September 23. Many people were expecting for the rapture to happen.
Yeah.
It was my belief back then that most probably the tribulation was going to start. And later I started to study even more in details about the sign, and I go to the understanding, a different understanding of what the sign means. But the only fact that this sign was in the heavens and somehow connected to what happened during the Yahushua's birth 2,000 years ago, somehow could be connected to the year of release, Shemitah, the 7th year.
Right.
So what is the commandments that blow the shofar for the Shemitah year, so meaning that the following year is the year of release. So we think, and this is what I tend to believe now. I don't have proofs for that, but it's something to study. That maybe 2018 was a year of release due to this sign on the heaven. Meaning that 2024 or 2025 could be an additional year of release. And if we see what's going on in the world now, it could be connected. I'm not saying that something's going to happen in the 2024 or 2025, but if we look into the timings according to the scripture calendar, Yahuwah's calendar, 7 years is something really important. So we need to keep watching.
Well, good things to think about, and certainly worth looking into. If we can figure it out, that'd be awesome. So let me know if you do come to a conclusion. I would be interested in knowing that, so that when that particular Sukkot happens, I do go through. And is your opinion that it's talking about reading the entire 5 books of Moses, or just the book of Deuteronomy during that Sukkot for that commandment? Because it seems like
I think
it might be just Deuteronomy, but I don't know.
my take on that so far, Rob, is that most probably is the book of Deuteronomy, because it's a
summary
great summary of the entire Torah.
Yeah.
Yes. And what we see in the book of Leviticus, for example, is most related to the service of the priests. But for the entire people, the book of Deuteronomy is a good summary of what is written. So most probably that it was that book.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all I have for today. And another exciting Virtual House Church. We got a new logo. Yay. So I will get that up on the Virtual House Church website here on this website, and we'll keep everybody informed as to the progress of the new one that I'm working on. See how that goes. But thank you, Juan Carlos. It was wonderful. And you've got a few more days left for your Sukkot. We are just beginning ours. So to everybody who's keeping Sukkot, happy Sukkot, and have a great weekend. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us once again for the Virtual House Church. All right, man. Have a good day.
Yeah, for you too. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. And Shabbat.
יברכך יחוה וישמרך, יאר יחוה פניו לך וחונקה, יישא יחוה פניו לך לך שלום, יישא יחוה פניו לך ויעשה לך שלום, ויעשה לך שלום, ויעשה לך שלום. Yahweh bless you and keep you. Yahweh make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Yahuwah make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace.
su rostro en ti y tenga de ti compasión. Yahuwah, alce su rostro sobre